This is a trade recap for Friday, February 20th, 2026. Number 17 of One and Done. And yeah, kind of interesting Friday. A bit volatile this morning. That was kind of interesting. A little whippy at the open. We'll get into that. If you are looking for some help with day trading, you need a little guidance, you have no idea where to even start, got a fantastic recommendation for you. And this is the person that teaches me how to do all this stuff and has been teaching me for quite a while. So listen up and yeah, see you in a moment. I am a student of this gentleman. This is Pat Mitchell. He is a professional day trader, though he originally was in blue collar work, and he has been in the markets for a little over a decade now. And he has built up a incredible process and knowledge base when it comes to learning how to day trade. He runs a service called Trick Trades. He has also put together inside of Trick Trades a program called SizeUp, and that's what I do. And it is a structured program for learning how to day trade. You start with a small cash account and you basically build that up with your education, experience, and screen time to eventually hit different milestones and become a full-time professional day trader. So if you're interested in something like that, great person, probably one of the highest quality coaches when it comes to day trading out there. If not the highest quality, I don't personally know of any other coaches that I can stand by or say that about. And I've been around a few of them in terms of their services, and nothing even comes close to what Pat offers. So if you're looking for a high quality coach, I cannot recommend him enough. And like I said before, you can find him over at tricktrades.com. He also has a YouTube channel on his own where he posts recaps usually daily. If you want to check that out, you can get a little preview of the kind of information he offers and the quality. And that is just a very, very small amount of the knowledge he possesses. But yeah, definitely check him out. It will be worth your time and effort to go through some of his content and judge for yourself. And with that being said, let's get into the charts. All right. Got our live recording fired up. If you're new here, it's your first time, give you the lay of the land. The set of charts right here on the left are the daily charts. Charts here in the middle are 1 minute intraday charts. And then here on the right, we have our order execution. These blue levels you see are levels that Pat was looking at the night before and then refines the morning of a trade session and builds a trade plan around them. That way we know exactly what's going on. And one of the exercises I like to do is I like to try and plot the same levels. Usually I'm fairly good at it. And sometimes I miss things, and it's good to kind of go through that exercise and again, make sure your head's on right, your point of reference and what you're seeing either aligns or doesn't, and then make corrections from there. I like to add my risk levels just because I like a visual level of risk. And if you haven't noticed this yet, if you've watched a few of my videos, or you're just new here, I only trade, and this is the same way with Pat, SPY and Qs. We only trade SPY and Qs. We don't trade anything else. We don't do screeners. We don't do catalyst plays, momentum, any of that. I guess I would call it hot garbage. But yeah, that's kind of how things are laid out. This is a live recording from this morning's session. It's about a minute before the open, so I'm going to go ahead and hit play. We're opening up fairly decent places. SPY definitely had a better setup in terms of where it was opening up versus, say, Qs. Qs kind of had some issues in terms of just where exactly was opening up in reference to other levels. As you can see, like it's been playing around with that one lower level there. That's, again, you can't really take a trade when you're opening right on top of a level. You have to, again, wait for it to kind of sort itself out. So we got about 30 seconds. So I just go through, again, make sure my charts are set up the way I want them. Order chains all set up, have the right strikes, all that kind of stuff. And then just kind of watch, wait, and see exactly where we're going to open. SPY so far on this one this morning was looking pretty decent. It was right in the middle of the channel. And then hit the open and just wait and see what triggers. As you can see, Q is right there at that level. Can't really do anything with that. So we need to figure out what's going on, just kind of let things sort themselves out. And kind of one of the oddball things like right now is like potentially looking at, would I short that level on Qs as it comes potentially back up? But then you got to look at SPY and where SPY is. It's kind of middle of nowhere, so you go either direction. So it might work in your favor or it might not. Because if it goes up, it's definitely going to come back above that level. So again, sometimes it's best to wait. Just let it tell you what it wants to do, as Pat tells us. So again, it's coming back up. Keeping an eye on it. Interesting thing is SPY is really not going anywhere. You kind of had that long wick in Qs, and then we get another kind of looks like a long wick again. So it's one of those things where you start to see some different things like volatility this morning, a little whippy, longer wicks, and it's just one of those things where you just start looking at the puzzle pieces and start putting things together, kind of see how the behavior is. And yeah, I mean, this is how it is some mornings where you just have to kind of watch, wait, make sure everything's setting up appropriately, have the discipline, or just fire things off because you just want to get into a trade, because that will just get you in trouble. It hasn't for me in the past. As you can see, it's kind of testing that pre-market level on Qs. SPY is still kind of this, it's testing a little bit of pre-market range, but definitely not as whippy and volatile as Qs. So as SPY started moving up a little bit closer to that potential short, again, decided to switch over on my order manager to make sure, again, could go short at the moment. It should test appropriately. Now, funny thing is, this now Qs is kind of a little squeezy, but it's also gotten above that level, so it could potentially remount for a long. But again, you're kind of getting this weird situation where Qs is kind of positioning itself for a long, while SPY is positioning itself for a short. So again, when they're divergent like that, it's one of those things you do kind of need to be careful there. Again, Qs is now getting a little close, so I'm going to be looking to potentially hit that short. And this is kind of like an odd one for us because normally, just for the past couple of days, normally we're honestly we're done at this point. That's the weird thing. It's like, especially for like one and done and stuff like that, we're just taking that one singular trade and calling it for the day just to exercise that discipline, consistency. It's odd that again we have to wait this long to actually get a trigger. So Q's didn't come close enough, Spy didn't come close enough to trigger off of. So now it's one of those things where now you're just stuck waiting. Not really stuck, but again, it's just letting it sort itself out. One thing I did notice here is if you look at the volume profiles on both Spy and Q's, I noticed that it's like the volume is very consistent. And for the risk on Q's, it was one of those things where you kind of need it fairly close to that level. So still not quite there. All right, now we're actually into it. So we're going to enter and watch and wait. Spy still has a little bit of room to come up to actually test that level. So like Q's could definitely come higher. And we start seeing some kind of reaction there. Right, so now we're starting to push above. So this is where I get a good opportunity to practice adding, averaging, correcting, which is something that I don't do all that often, and something I'd really do take advantage of when the opportunity is there. That way I get the reps in. Now we're moving towards the risk level, so I'm definitely going to add corrected average. Just again, a singular add. Seems a little whippy, a little squeezy, so it's like, okay, what's going on there? Got to be cautious. Because obviously that level is getting there's interest, there's interaction, and that volume is still looking real consistent. So it tells me it's almost institutional. So on that first reaction, kind of had it, then it pops. Like I said, real whippy, right into that risk level. Not enough to stop out, didn't break above it. Or didn't even break above or confirm above it. You need both. So again, exercising more patience, not freaking out or anything like that. Just let the trade play out. It's either going to stop you out or it's going to give you follow through. It's kind of in the middle of kind of that gray zone where it's doing what it's doing. It doesn't really matter what it's doing. Seeing again, it might be holding that level. So at this point in time, I got that one maybe just off by a fraction of a second where it was a green exit. But again, took that first reaction, got some of the size out, still holding one to see if we get any follow through. And then it does start again, kind of playing with the actual level again. But you can see those still kind of just bouncing back and forth right there at that level. Spy did end up coming up and testing the actual level itself. It's a little bit cleaner. But Q's was the first one to trigger. And Spy does have, again, the 5 right above it. So does Q. They're both playing with their 5 EMAs, so just let it do its thing. That was a pretty big run up without much of a pullback, so Thinking again, we should get some follow through on this. Could be totally wrong on that. This is just kind of my thought process. So now we're actually getting that follow through. So when I sold that first one, I was right on the position. Then I got this, sold the second one, and that was a trade. Wiped out the entire loss and banked green. So that's one of those things where sometimes on that first reaction, people think it's like, well, it's not green, so why should I sell it? Well, your first reaction is your first reaction. That may be all you get. So you do have to generally pull size out on that first reaction. Otherwise, you could hold and hope. And again, that's not really a plan. That's not strategy. And I can't think of the number of times that I've ultimately like burned myself trying to do that. So that was more or less the trade this morning. And then I'll just kind of show you guys, take a couple screenshots. As you see, it came right back up. And then, boop, started really getting a little nutso because of some news. And yeah, so again, if you held and hoped for that one instead of pay yourself on the first reaction and then the follow through, which was the real, again, like where you should be getting out, like you would have been basically, you would have gone like that squeeze, like you would have been forced out. You probably would have top ticked it and you would have eaten that loss. So one of those lessons where it's like, follow your trade plan, stay disciplined, stay consistent. So here is chart. I'll pull up the entry so you can see the cues. Short right there worked out pretty beautifully. I mean, ultimately, did this thing come back down? Yeah, but you had no idea that was going to happen. So it's one of those things where you work the trade at the levels, don't hold and hope. In terms of like issues, like can't really think of any issues that I had, honestly, during the session. It was pretty, for those whippy and volatile as, again, those candles were, really didn't have any issues. So really, really happy on that. And yeah, that's more or less all I got. Again, if you're looking for high-level coaching and mentorship, check out Pat Mitchell over at tricktrades.com. Jump over to his YouTube channel if you want a preview of his stuff. If you want like more in depth in terms of like the structure and everything that I do and a lot of the other members do at Trick Trades, it's called the SizeUp program. There's a link to the webinar that Pat did a while ago on it. Feel free to check that one out and hopefully see you in the room. And other than that, have a great weekend and we'll see everyone next week. Have a good one.